The moment you notice it, you don't see it coming. One morning you're brushing your hair in a small bathroom somewhere in America, maybe a quiet suburb outside Columbus, maybe a condo in Phoenix, and the light hits just right. Not a highlight, not dust, a silver wire, then another. And suddenly the question lands like a punch. Is this the beginning of the end? People will tell you it's just hair, but you and I both know it's not just hair. Gray feels like a timestamp, a warning label, proof that your body is changing whether you like it or not. And for a lot of Americans, that fear goes deeper than vanity. It's about aging, about losing strength, about losing independence, about looking older before you feel ready, about what it means in a country that worships youth and punishes decline. Today, I'm going to walk you through a different way to understand gray hair, one that doesn't rely on expensive salon routines or harsh dyes, but on what may be happening at the cellular level. This is educational content, not medical advice, and you should always talk to a qualified health professional before changing supplements, medications, or treatment plans. But if you're willing to think like a detective, not a victim, you might realize something powerful. In many cases, your pigment system doesn't vanish. It falls asleep. And sleeping systems sometimes respond when you finally give them what they've been missing. Why most people get the story wrong. Most people have been trained to believe graying is a straight line. Genetics, age, and then goodbye color, the end. And yes, genes matter. Age matters. But here's the twist most people never hear. In many cases, the pigment-producing cells in your hair follicles don't completely disappear. They're still there, but under stress, they can become sluggish, starved, or dormant. Think of it like a factory during a recession. The building still stands, the machines are still inside. But the lights go off because the supply chain breaks, the power dips, and the system decides it can't keep operating at full capacity. That's the frame you need if you want to understand why graying seems inevitable to some people and delayed in others. And it's especially important after 40, and even more after 60, when many Americans begin to feel the weight of time in their joints, their sleep, their energy, their libido, their bank accounts, and their sense of control. Because gray hair often isn't an isolated event. It can be one visible clue in a larger story about oxidative stress, nutrient depletion, absorption problems, and the slow drift toward metabolic breakdown. The medical system often labels it normal and moves on. But normal doesn't always mean optimal, and nothing to do can be the most expensive advice of your life if it keeps you passive while reversible issues quietly grow roots. The real biology inside the follicle. Inside every hair follicle lives a small group of specialized cells responsible for creating pigment, melanin. When melanin is made and delivered properly, hair grows out with color. When the pigment pipeline slows down or shuts off, hair grows out pale, gray, or white. Here's the part that matters. Those pigment cells are metabolically demanding. They're not lazy. They're not passive. They require oxygen, raw materials, enzymes, and protection from damage. When you're younger and your internal systems are running clean, the pigment process can work like clockwork. But as the decades pile up, many Americans develop gaps they don't even know exist. Trace mineral shortages, B vitamin issues, chronic inflammation, and oxidative stress that acts like rust on the machinery. And the body is ruthless with priorities. If resources are tight, your biology will choose survival over aesthetics every time. That's not a moral judgment. That's physiology. So pigmentation gets downgraded. The follicle still produces hair, but the paint department goes bankrupt. This is why people can be eating what they believe is a decent diet and still watch their hair change. It's not always about what you consume. It can be about what reaches the cells, what gets absorbed, and what gets destroyed before it can do its job. The hidden villain, internal bleach. Here's where the story gets darker and also more logical. Your body produces hydrogen peroxide as a normal byproduct of metabolism. When you're younger, protective enzymes break it down quickly. But over time, those defenses can weaken, and peroxide can accumulate where you don't want it, inside hair follicles. If peroxide builds up around pigment production, it doesn't just sit there politely. It can chemically interfere. It can destroy pigment molecules as they're formed. In plain terms, your follicle can be trying to paint a strand while a bleaching agent is being poured on the workbench. That's why some people feel like no matter what they do, the gray keeps winning. They're focused on supply, but the sabotage is happening on the defense side. And here's the bigger message. Oxidative stress doesn't only show up in hair. It shows up as aging skin, as stiffness, as cloudier vision over time, as arterial wear, as the slow background inflammation that makes people feel older than their age. Gray hair can become the most obvious signal of a deeper chemical environment. And if you're an American over 60, you already know the fear behind that. What else is changing that I can't see yet? What else is quietly accumulating? Strategy 1. The trace mineral that unlocks the enzyme. Let's start with the nutrient lever that acts like an ignition key for pigment production. One trace mineral is essential for activating the key enzyme involved in creating hair pigment. If that mineral is low, the enzyme can't do its job efficiently. Now here's the real-world complication. Many health-conscious seniors in the US take high-dose zinc for immune support. Zinc has its place, but zinc and certain trace minerals compete for absorption. So a person can accidentally create an imbalance over time, doing what they believe is responsible, only to find that their hair changes fast, their energy dips, and their body feels off. Food sources matter here because bioavailable nutrition often behaves differently than cheap, poorly absorbed supplement forms. Concentrated foods, especially organ meats and certain shellfish, tend to contain dense amounts of key cofactors in nature's ratios. And yes, modern American culture moved away from organ meats. We were raised on convenience, lean cuts, and processed foods. But older traditional diets in many cultures treated nutrient-dense parts as valuable for a reason. If you're correcting a deficiency, tiny scattered sources may not be enough. You need a meaningful amount, consistently, while still respecting safety and not pushing into excess. Strategy 2 and 3. Oxygen and defense. Next comes a vitamin tied closely to red blood cell function and oxygen delivery. Pigment cells are oxygen hungry. When oxygen delivery is impaired, cells don't perform optimally. And in older adults, absorption can become the main obstacle, not intake. This is why some people do better with forms that bypass the typical digestive pathway. And there's another reality Americans need to face: fatigue, brain fog, tingling, getting older, and hair changes can all overlap with nutrient issues that go untested for years. People blame aging, but aging is not a diagnosis, it's a stage of life. The third strategy is about defending follicles from oxidative sabotage, specifically supporting the body's ability to neutralize peroxide and related stress. This is where food preparation matters. Some protective compounds are fragile. Overcooking can destroy what you're trying to get. Raw or lightly prepared vegetables, sprouts, and certain nutrient-dense foods can play a role in enzyme support and antioxidant protection. The point isn't perfection. The point is building a daily environment where pigment cells aren't constantly fighting chemical warfare. Supply plus defense, fuel plus shields. That's how biology tends to recover. Strategies 4 through 7. Protection, raw materials, signaling, and stress. Now we widen the lens. Antioxidant minerals and fat-soluble nutrients help protect cell membranes and support internal cleanup systems. Some foods are incredibly concentrated, like certain nuts and seeds, But with concentrated foods comes the responsibility of moderation. Then there's protein, which becomes a major issue for seniors in America. Many older adults undereat protein without realizing it, partly from appetite changes, dental issues, budget concerns, or outdated diet fears. But pigment needs building blocks. If the raw materials are short, output falls. Another strategy involves a lesser-known compound discussed in older research that may influence pigmentation-related processes in some individuals. The key word is may. Not everyone responds the same way. Biology is personal, which is why the most intelligent approach is structured experimentation with tracking. And finally, the most emotionally charged strategy: stress management. Americans live under a unique kind of pressure: health insurance anxiety, the fear of medical bills, the fear of being alone, the fear of losing relevance, and for many men, the fear of losing vitality and being seen as weak. Chronic stress chemistry can accelerate oxidative damage and push the body into resource conservation. This is not about relaxing more. It's about building daily rituals that lower stress load, improve sleep depth, and reduce the biochemical signal that tells your body it's under threat. Because cells behave differently when they believe survival is at stake. The phased plan, the advanced options, and the haunting truth. Here's the smartest way to implement this without burning out: phase it. Start with testing and foundational support first. Build your baseline. Then layer in mineral balance, protein targets, and protective foods. Then add the more specific tools: sprouts, targeted antioxidants, the optional add-ons, while tracking how you feel and what changes show up at the root over time. The timeline is not overnight. Think in months. Many people who claim nothing works never gave the biology long enough under consistent conditions. After a few months, if you want to optimize further, there are additional strategies people explore: high enzyme greens, light-based therapies that may support circulation and cellular energy, and deeper iron status testing beyond basic labs. But here's the truth that makes this whole topic feel heavy in the chest. Gray hair isn't only about color. It's about control. It's about the moment Americans realize their bodies are changing, and no one is coming to save them. The system will sell you coverage. It will sell you products. It will sell you reassurance. But it rarely teaches you how to interpret the signals early, while you still have leverage. So if you do nothing else, remember this: your hair may be the first place your body shows you that the internal repair budget is shrinking. And the most haunting part is this: if you ignore the early signals long enough, one day you won't just see gray. You'll feel the cost of everything you didn't address when you still had time.